Hey, hello, folks. Welcome to the another episode of Product Management Interview Experience. And today we have Revti, who has recently joined Myntra as a senior product manager. Welcome, Revti.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sugat. Yeah, thanks for
So,
having me here.
No, thanks a lot for
Mm.
being part of this channel. And we're going to talk a lot today about your entire, what you have been doing so far, your entire interview experience, and a bit about how folks can get into Myntra as a product manager. But before we get started, I would request all my viewers to please like, share, and subscribe this channel so that it reaches out to many more aspirants who are on the similar phase and it helps them. So, let's get started, Revti. Why don't you go ahead and
Sure.
introduce yourself?
All right, sure. Let me just share my screen. Yeah. Can you see? All right. Okay, so just a quick intro about me and how I got into the product management journey because it's slightly different from the usual where people usually do MBA and then become a product manager. So I did my undergrad in electronics and telecom engineering, and I started working in as a QA automation engineer in IBM and on mobile for about 4 years. So I was constantly looking out for, what I was interested in and what kept me hooked because this was not my interest area, which I clearly knew, though it was going good. And in on mobile, I got to work very closely with the product team, and that's where my interest in product management also started. So when I moved to Singapore Airlines, I moved as a QA automation engineer, but parallelly, what I did, I started shadowing a product manager there. I started off with understanding the requirements, translating it into user stories, working closely with the dev team. Being from QA background also helped me here because we kind of have an overall end-to-end view of the product and its functionalities and its solutioning. So that gave me an edge as well. And then I moved on to working with the designers, understanding customer problems, working with the stakeholders. So it was more of a on the job learning for me. And within about 6 to 7 months, I think I kind of took over an entire squad by myself, and there was somebody else appointed for QA. So initially it was I had to do both. Yeah. And I also attended a lot of product meetups there, interacted with other PMs, built connections, understood what practices they employed, and sort of improving my skill sets there. So yeah, and it really helped me there, and worked across various products across in SIA mobile and website. And in one of the meetups, actually one of the speakers, they mentioned, this kind of stuck with me. Like they mentioned, how do we differentiate ourselves from other PMs? Because there are so many out there, right? So everybody needs to have a niche. Like, some might be good. You can be good at IoT or AI ML or, say payments, or you can be a growth PM, or, you're good at design. You need to have a strong point. What is that you're bringing to the table? So that kind of stuck with me, and I always wanted to find that for myself. And that's when I also got to work on recommendation and personalization features in Singapore Airlines. So worked very closely with the data science team, and that's where my interest in data and AI ML kind of got triggered. So then I also did a postgrad program in artificial intelligence. So now I've joined Myntra as a product manager for data platforms. So I'm guessing the learning curve is going to be steep, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, awesome, Revti, and thanks a lot for sharing your entire experience so far. And you belong to that category of PM who has internally transitioned into product managers. They don't have to do an MBA or start with a PM role, but yeah, you have gradually
Yeah.
transitioned in your own company at Singapore Airlines.
Yes. That's right. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I think
So
that initial few months is going to be hard juggling two roles, but yeah, then it's worth it.
great, great, great. So pretty excited to hear about your entire interview experience of Myntra. I believe you were working in Singapore and how you decided to move back to India
Yeah.
and have this. So stay tuned, folks, for
Yeah.
hearing all these things. And before we begin, I just wanted to call out this video is sponsored by Relevel by Unacademy. Relevel is India's first hiring platform which gives you a chance to get a job in your dream company. You neither need a degree nor experience to get a job through Relevel. You can prove your skill by taking the Relevel test and getting a job in your dream company. The best part is this platform is completely free of cost. Currently, Freelevel is conducting tests in 9 categories, and recently they have launched a new test, Associate Product Management Test, which offers salaries up to 25 LPA. Jobs are offered from big companies like Swiggy, Hype, Bread, Razorpay, Yatra, Paytm. There are 200 plus leading companies hiring from Freelevel at this moment. By just putting your basic details on the platform, you can register for the test completely for free. Please don't miss this opportunity. I would recommend you to register for the test right now. Link in the description. So, yeah, let's get started.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Sugat. Yeah. I'll move on to my interview experience in Myntra. Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned, yeah, I came from Singapore to Bangalore over here. I really wanted to relocate back. I think the opportunities here are just enormous in India right now, especially the product roles. But what I also saw that was the competition is also extremely high. Not much over there. Out here, I saw that. Yeah, it's just extremely high. But yeah, it's good. It's good. I think it's always good to get tested. You get to learn a lot as well. Yeah. So about my interview experience in Myntra, the first round was HR screening round. So where, I just gave a brief about my introduction. I just introduced myself and I gave a brief about my experience. And the HR assessed if I'd be fit for the roles that they were looking for. They gave a brief about the role and the products, and we discussed about our salary expectations and then what the interview process would be. So she also mentioned that typically it would take about 2 to 3 weeks because it was a holiday period. It took slightly longer time, I think 3.5 weeks. Yeah, so this discussion went on for about 30 minutes.
Okay. So Revati, can you also talk a bit about how you landed up into this call? Actually, did you apply or went via referral? How did this happen, the first HR screening?
Okay. So when I was looking for jobs in India, I directly went into company websites. So I would look at openings in LinkedIn, but then, I went into company careers, go to their career section. And then I went through each and every role and saw, what would actually fit me. And then I started connecting with people on LinkedIn, like my connections who were working there, or if I didn't have any, I reached out to my friends or even directly pinged the HRs working in that company. So fortunately, I had a friend who was working in Myntra and reached out to him for a referral. Yeah, and after the referral, I think I got the call in about 2 days. It was pretty quick. Yeah.
Awesome. I think that's what I have been telling to all of the viewers. Always go with a referral and it increases your chances of getting the interview calls. Let's hear out the entire upcoming journeys as well.
Yeah. So going to round 1. So this is with a hiring manager who's the director of data product management in Myntra. So it started off with a quick introduction about myself and my experience. And then we jumped into a case study. So he gave an on-the-spot case study. So this was on some widely used products like Gmail or Dropbox or YouTube, can be on anything. So he'll check with you if you're comfortable with it. And it's mostly to check your product design sense. He'll give a problem statement and mostly will be evaluated on factors like, how well we understand the problem. Are we asking clarifying questions? How we are breaking down the problem? And also we concentrated on what are my data sources for understanding the problem? Like, what are the different user actions I would focus on for the problem statement that he had given. So what data am I going to rely on, to understand and come up with the solution? So that was the main focus area as well. And then went into what would be my approach or framework that I would take. For example, like how I'd set my objective for this, and then, what are the pain points, and then user segmentation, then coming up with the solutions for them, and then the metrics to track. So ideally, when I was preparing, I would look at, just identify 3 pain points, go with 3 user segments, and then go with 3 solutions. And one of them can be a wow solution. So it keeps it simple, very easy to put it across and very easy for them to understand rather than doing too many things and, kind of goes out of hand. Yeah. So this is what I had followed. So this was for about 60 minutes. It was more of a conversation where, I was constantly talking about it. He wanted to voice out my thoughts, to see my thought process. And he was also pitching in whenever I was kind of deviating from the problem. He brought me on track. Then he also gave his points, something that I had to think about. So yeah, it was a good conversation that we had. Yeah, and that's about the round one. Okay.
Let's move on to the upcoming rounds.
Sure. So then after that, it was the take-home case study. So the HR emailed this. So it was a problem statement, which was an issue faced by Myntra. It was a very generic problem which most e-commerce sites would face. Any retail e-commerce site would face this. So, and as a PM, how I would tackle this problem in Myntra mobile app and website. So this is what they had given. And the topics that they expect us to cover is, again, we need to state our vision for this particular area, and again, what is our approach and framework. For example, again, because this is for data platforms, right? So we need to be very strong on that aspect. Always state the data sources. Since this was a generic problem, I actually went and checked, just Googled, what is the stats faced by other e-commerce sites. If I could find any sources, then I actually put those in the PPT as well. And for some of the data that I could not find, some of the solutions that I came up with, I actually did simple prototypes and just tested it out with my friends on what they thought. And, it was like a quick customer study, usually you do for a larger scale. So this was a very quick one, 4 or 5 people, and I put that in my PPT that, my decision is based on this. Yeah. So all those is something they look at. And again, who are our target customers and why, and, how we came into this, and, what is our user segmentation? What is the guiding principles for solutioning? Again, that's the data one that I mentioned. And solution phases prioritization, like, what is the framework you use, like the RISE framework. We need to mention it over there. And metrics. And also very important to mention is risks and mitigation plan, because this is something they see as a PM. Are we able to identify this in whatever we are working on? Yeah. And also important to put, it's good to put basic paper prototypes of our solutions, easy to communicate our thoughts, especially when we are presenting it as well, what idea we have for the design. Yeah. So just drew it on a paper and put a pic of it. That's all. So there were no timelines given on when this needed to be submitted, but yeah, it took about 4 to 5 days to complete and did the submission. Yeah. That's about the take-home case study.
Perfect. Sounds good. Yeah.
I'll move on. Yeah. For the presentation, so this was a panel presentation again. So the panel consisted of the same hiring manager, who's the director. Then there was a senior PM and another peer PM and engineering manager. So these 5 folks were there. So I think there was about 45 minutes given for the presentation and then 15 minutes for Q&A. So most of the questions, the questions will be asked on the presentation itself and the thought process behind it. But most questions were concentrated on the data aspect of it, like, how I derived it, what data sources I looked at, and, how I base my decisions on it. And then some about the key metrics for every solution. How are we going to track it? Because there's a lot of solutions we may not be able to track, but how can we find ways to do it? So that's important. We also need to know if whatever we are implementing is working or not. So that's very important for a PM as well. So all these questions were asked. Yeah. Okay, awesome. So this was total 60 minutes. Then moving on to the next round. So after this, there was one-on-one rounds with each of the panel members. So that's what the remaining rounds were. So the round 4 was with the engineering manager, who is there in the case study presentation. So this was more to gauge how I work with the tech team and, and also for me to understand how tech teams work at Myntra. So, more questions were asked on how I usually do the prioritization of the tech items, managing tech debts, backlogs, my communication with the devs, to see if I can understand technical and speak technical, and how well we can translate the business requirements to tech. And then resolution of conflicts with stakeholders in tech. Usually the problem is over there. Yeah. Managing their expectations, etc. And One main thing that we went deep dive is in case of production issues, what would be my approach to tackle it? So there was just an example given and what I would do in such a situation. And then, about user story writing, epics, all those things. Yeah, all the technical aspects of it. It was a very good conversation. And they also explained about the data products and what is expected of me. And I asked a lot of clarifying questions as well. So yeah, this went on for about 45 minutes. Okay. So the next one was with the peer product manager. So this was to assess a few product manager skill sets, how to work with peer PMs, and also for me to understand the PM work culture at Myntra. So it started off with a very quick introduction and work experience because they wanted to understand the projects that I have worked on. And we deep dived into one of the projects, something mostly about, something that I am very proud of. And, spoke about what are the challenges I faced and, how I came to what is an MVP. And we picked a few aspects of it and deep dived into how I did stakeholder management there, how I use data to base my decisions, key metrics captured, etc. So deep dive into one of the projects. So it's very important for us to know whatever we've put in our resume and, what we have worked on. Yeah. And then the last one was questions from the case study. And we just picked one of the solutions that I had put and went into how I will break it down and write different user stories for it and how I would prioritize each of those as well and why. Yeah. So again, need to be very thorough with the case study also. Yeah. So this was the round 5. For the next round, it was with the senior PM who is also in the same panel, again, to assess a few other product manager skill sets. Yeah. And here we actually spoke about a lot of product management terminologies, trying to understand what it is. What is a feature, what is a need, what is a requirement, etc. And how we work around all of those. And then spend quite some time on a problem statement, something along the lines of how would you design an elevator for blind people? But more than going into the solutioning, the main part here was to understand if it is actually a problem and if we really need to solution it. So this was basically for them to gauge if we can actually prioritize or understand stakeholder requirements. We cannot just take every requirement and do it, but we should be capable of understanding and negotiating, trying to find alternate solutions. We can't just invest money in everything. Yeah. So it was more of that rather than jumping into what the solution for it would be. Yeah. So this was for another 45 minutes.
All these rounds were elimination, or how was it, right? Was it can you help us understand a bit more on this?
So what they mentioned in the beginning was everybody goes through all the rounds. But they really wanted to assess every aspect of that person. Some people may be good at technical, some people are good at the customer side, some people are good at, understanding data or the product sense. So they wanted to understand all the aspects and then make a decision. So they didn't want to just eliminate somebody just because they're not good at something. So all the rounds, everybody will go through. Yeah.
Understood. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. Okay. Then the last, again, moving on to round 7, this was with the hiring manager again, the last round. So it was more of a discussion here. He just wanted to understand how my interview experience was. And then he gave me complete details on the data platform and the different data products, what is expected of each PM and what are the practices, PM practices, and, how it works in Myntra. And he also mentioned about what they do to ensure there's a good learning and growth journey for the PM, because that's also important, and how horizontal movements are also supported. And they also checked on what are my expectations from my manager and what are my goals. I did ask a lot of queries, and, he was very happy to clear them. And once all these were done, then he moved on to testing me on some basic statistics. He just gave a problem statement from Myntra because I realized it was a problem that they were actually facing after I joined. Yeah. So, and then how I would actually, solve it or, apply and solve it, So that's in a particular scenario. A variation of it he had checked on. Yeah. And then he also asked about some of the challenges that I faced in my previous projects and deep dived into one of them. More we just spoke about what I did that time, how I solved it, again, short-term, long-term fix, how I ensured it wouldn't happen again, along with the process, the solutioning, everything. So these are the typical questions that are asked, challenges faced and, understanding, going deep dive into it. Yeah. So again, this was for about 45 minutes. Yeah. This was the last round. There was another round actually with the hiring manager again, the HR manager again. So more of a culture fit assessment again. So just spoke about Myntra culture and, what is my expectation, what is the culture I'm coming from and how it is going to be here, what they do for employee well-being, etc. So that was for about 30 minutes. Yeah. And then I think after all this, within 2 or 3 days, I got the result.
No, pretty amazing. And thanks a lot, Revati, for walking us through the entire interview process at Myntra. What I really liked about here is, the call with the hiring manager. Generally, what we see in different companies, hey, there's only a first round with hiring manager where he or she is responsible for doing the screening. After that, no discussions. But it's very important that the person with whom you will be working, you should talk to them again to see how they actually bond.
Yeah.
And that. So I felt that the round number 7 with the hiring manager was very important, where you guys were discussing again everything.
It really tied up the whole thing, and he gave me a lot more insights. And also what I really liked is they gave a good feedback also after everything. He mentioned he'll collect all the feedback from everyone and then give it. So they actually did that as well, put in all the positives and points to improve. And the points to improve will actually be in my goals for this year. It'll be like that. So yeah, that I really liked.
Pretty amazing. And I am hearing this for the first time. The feedbacks were shared as a part of the interview process itself. So amazing, Revati. So congratulations. And now, since you're part of Myntra, I think so many folks will be watching this video and will be aspired to be there. So any tips for them, right? What actually Myntra looks for as a product manager, or how any person can get into a product role at Myntra?
Yeah. Not just at Myntra, any other companies also, like how I have done my preparation is this way, especially for lateral hires. I think it's very important to be thorough with whatever we are working on, the projects that we are working on, constantly keep upgrading our skill set, make connections. Like I was mentioning, the meetups that I used to attend, that really helped a lot. Always get a knowledge about what other folks are doing, see if we can implement it. And whatever projects that we are working on or the products that we are working on, we need to have complete knowledge about it. Just prepare for stuff like, the challenges faced, like I mentioned, how you did stakeholder negotiation and always how did you base it on data, all such things. And when it comes to stakeholder negotiations, I think it's always important to give examples, like rather than just saying, randomly, like, I did this, I did that, something. You mention the feature and then give the stats. So, they also get a perspective, easy for them to understand. So this was a feedback that I received from one of the interviews as well. So then I started doing it, put in all the examples. And when we are talking about the challenges faced also, make sure to put in a proper framework, like a structure, like the STAR framework, like, situation, what's the task, what's the action, and what's the result. So you may be really good, it in the head, but it's the interviewer may not understand. So we have to put it very clearly. So this is something I got it when I was preparing as well. And I went through PM exercises for the PM design questions. Those actually helped to put a structure to the thoughts. I've gone through your videos. That's where we connected. And then other YouTube channels like PM Diego Granados. I actually follow him on LinkedIn also. Puts amazing posts. And another channel called Exponent. A lot of tutorials on PM interviews, the design questions, guesstimates, etc. So these are the channels that I used to follow and prepared for this interview. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for all this preparation tips. And one thing, I think the folks who will be watching this video, please feel free to connect to Revati. She would be more than happy to help you for any referral or any. And if you are looking for even the product roles at Myntra, you may look into the careers website, look for the relevant job options, and try to network with Revati and check with her what should be the next steps. And certainly you can ask for the referral as well. So yeah.
Happy to help. Yes.
Perfect. So any final thoughts, Revati, before we, wind up this session?
And nothing. I'm just thanks for actually bringing me here, and I could share my tips as well, because I have gone through your videos to prepare for my interviews, and I really wanted to come and share my experiences too. So thanks for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Revati, and we wish you all the best for all the upcoming challenges at Myntra. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Good luck to you too. Yeah.